Ladies and gentlemen, this next segment of the podcast is brought to you by the Heritage Foundation. For over 50 years, the Great Heritage Foundation has been America's outpost in Washington, fighting against the D.C. federal bureaucracy and working to secure a future that allows Americans to live the good life. For too long, common sense principles have been ignored by many of the very leaders claiming to fight for America. But the Heritage Foundation is proud to hold our leaders accountable and stand up for America's founding principles. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Marc Levin.
President Trump just posted here. I have to assume this is accurate. Congratulations to everyone. It has been fully agreed by and between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire in approximately 6 hours from now, when Israel and Iran have wound down and completed their in-progress final missions for 12 hours, at which point the war will be considered ended. Officially, Iran will start the ceasefire, and upon the 12th hour, Israel will start the ceasefire, and upon the 24th hour, an official end of the 12-day war will be saluted by the world. During each ceasefire, the other side will remain peaceful and respectful. On the assumption that everything works as it should, which it will, I would like to congratulate both countries, Israel and Iran, on having the stamina, courage, and intelligence to end what should be called the 12-day war. This is a war that could have gone on for years and destroyed the entire Middle East, but it didn't and never will. God bless Israel, God bless Iran, God bless the Middle East, God bless the United States of America, and God bless the world. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. This is what he's just posted, so I'm reading it raw. It could be very interesting. Very interesting. You know, folks, we're going to talk about what's taken place here for 12 days and over the weekend, our fantastic military commander-in-chief. Why we could talk about this? Because it's very, very important. But it's also important that we understand that there is a crazed bunch of truly sick people who seek to steal the movement from Donald Trump and you, the 77 million people who voted for him. And the radical left media are promoting them and pushing them and telling us they're consistent and they're principled when they're not mocking them, calling them names, and laughing at them. You see, they don't want us to win the next election. They don't want us to win the next election, so they're going to promote these people. There's a guy, Kobe Hall at Media. I told you he's a coward. We wanted to have a chat with him based on the last sleazy thing he wrote, but he wouldn't. It's okay. So he's telling us today, yeah, this Marjorie Taylor Greene is bat-ass crazy, but she's the most principled among MAGA. See what I mean? All these radical left sites and news organizations. It's not just her. But you look at the background of these people and the things that they've said. That no American was killed by Iran. That was their latest 5-watt light bulb comment. A few years ago, she basically denied the Holocaust, and she had to apologize. This is a very sick woman. Not just another pretty face, I might add. And here I don't stop. I don't stop. You got this guy, Matt Gaetz. I didn't know a lot about Matt Gaetz. He's a good debater, was very good in these committees. Then I made the mistake of looking at that report that was released about this guy, Mr. Producer. He's a certified pervert. It's unbelievable. Now, I'm not going to post it. You can go do all your Google work all you want. Then you get a guy who calls his podcast The War Room and calls everybody else a warmonger. I remember when he joined the conservative movement from Hollywood. Yes, a blunderbuss. Now, his fantastic career is also all over the internet for you to investigate yourselves, if you care. I'm only going to spend a few minutes on this. Whether it's charities and his pleading of guilt. And he thinks that Fox, Hannity, Kayleigh McEnany, who's now taken leave to have a baby girl, and I, among others, should be investigated because we support Israel. So I'm publicly calling for his investigation based on his relationship with Communist China. Go ahead, look it up. You'd think he'd be a little bit more supportive of Donald Trump at a time like this, given the fact that Trump pardoned his ass, and it's a big ass. But no. Then you have Qatarlson out there. You know what he did today, Mr. Producer? He praised Qatar. Praised Qatar. The Israelis have defeated the Iranian army. Destroyed it. Destroyed their Air Force, their Navy, destroyed the whole damn thing. Took out all of their senior officials, military officials, all of them. Their senior intelligence officials, their top nuclear scientists. We took out, permanently I hope, the nuclear sites, for which we praise and support Donald Trump and what he's done. While the people I just mentioned were trashing Donald Trump at a time when he deserved our support, because they don't have faith in him. Now, they interview each other, and they post each other's interviews, and there's really quite a small following, quite frankly. And the radical left media love it. They sit there, they aggregate, they put up hysterical headlines because they want their clicks and all the rest of it. We keep it real here. Real here. Making sure the Islamo-Nazi terrorist regime in Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons was a priority. And the President of the United States took care of that. That's a big deal. It is a huge deal. It'll be remembered forever, as long as it holds. All the lies about a regional war, it's amazing. Virtually every Arab country today has denounced Iran because of the phony reputation-saving, quote-unquote, firing of missiles that we, the United States, the Israelis, the Iranians, and others agreed that they should do. Crazy, isn't it? It's amazing. None of this would be happening but for the Israelis and Donald Trump. None of this would be happening but for Netanyahu and Donald Trump. None of it. Now, these people I just mentioned, they have the same belief system as Tlaib when it comes to these issues. The same belief system as Omar when it comes to these issues. The same belief system as the most radical, leftist, Marxist, Islamist elements in our country. The blame of America First crowd. The blame the Jews in Israel crowd. And yet Israel and Donald Trump and the greatest fighting force on the face of the earth, the United States military, has ensured, at least for a period of time, peace by taking out those nuclear sites. Peace. regardless of the people I just mentioned, what I call the Iran supporters, regardless of the media that plays them in order to undermine our president and in hopes of destroying us in the next election. It's funny when you look at who your allies and supporters are. For the reprobates I just mentioned, it's the most radical elements in the Democrat Party and the most radical ideologues in the country. Not to mention the liberal media and their entrails like media. That's the truth. They didn't elect Donald Trump. Donald Trump elected Donald Trump. You elected Donald Trump. That's the truth, too. So we have a ceasefire. I hate this word ceasefire. I really do. The president hated it a few days ago, too. What's needed now is this, in my humble opinion. Iran should be forced to sign a surrender document, unconditional surrender. They lost their nukes. They've lost their air force. They have no ground-to-air protection. China didn't step in. Russia didn't step in. Not a single Arab country stepped in. The supreme Nazi is hiding in a bunker, much like Adolf Hitler did. Adolf Hitler wasn't thrown a lifeline. He wasn't thrown in a lifeline. He was going to be killed, so he committed suicide. I'm very much interested in seeing how this plays out. I really am. Because what does an agreement look like? Does that mean the supreme Nazi survives? Does that mean the regime survives? I guess so. If you understand the Islamist mindset, most of the people who talk do not. The nitwittery have no idea about the Islamist mindset. The war room. You know, he actually reminds me of that guy in Deliverance. Who was that guy in Deliverance? Beatty. What was his name? Can you Google that while I'm talking to you, Mr. Producer? Okay. Let's look that up. That's who he really reminds me of. Except his hair's longer. You know, he looks like a hippie. But nonetheless, while he's picking on Kayleigh McEnany, isn't that sweet? Who's a sweetheart. Because he doesn't like her opinion. Marjorie Taylor Greene has to be one of the dumbest people to ever serve in the House of Representatives. The stupidity that comes out of that woman's mouth is hard to imagine. The Iranians didn't kill any Americans. Just stupid. Which is why they want to promote her. Or Tarleton on a day like this. Shouldn't he be praising the president and the prime minister of Israel for what they've achieved? No, he praises Qatar. Hence his name, Tarleton. Then we have Matt Gaetz, who's really destroyed his career, destroyed himself. But what do you expect? No wonder he didn't want that report to come out. This guy is officially certified one of the biggest perverts. In my humble opinion, just my opinion. I went back and looked. Holy mackerel. Wow. Just a very strange group. Great piece by Rich Lowry. National Review by this guy, Dave Smith. A comic. You gotta check that out. So they're there. But here's the thing. There are millions and millions of you. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of brilliant writers and commentators who lay out the case for freedom in the Constitution, for our own country's national security, for border security. I bring them to you often, whether it's on this program, on television, or on Blaze. Rational people, not grifters, not sloganeers, morons and worse. That's what we do here. We don't call our show The War Room. The war room. We don't praise Qatar today. We praise the American military and our commander-in-chief and our allies, the Prime Minister of Israel and the Israeli military. A fantastic alliance that has achieved an enormous, enormous amount in 12 days. You know who knows this? President Trump. He knows this. Much more. I'll be right back.
Marc Levin.
President Trump is in Washington with a mandate from the American people to solve the border crisis, reverse the effects of Bidenflation, and restore American greatness. But since January 20, judges across our country have consistently been blocking President Trump's attempts to fulfill his mandate. The Heritage Foundation has been analyzing the situation, and they've been able to identify the legal issues with these judges' actions, as well as the solutions that can end this potential crisis. Now, to see the results of the Heritage's analysis for yourself, go to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin. There you'll gain exclusive access to the Heritage Foundation's guide to solving the problem of limiting President Trump's executive actions. Stopping these judges might be the only way to protect Americans and take back our nation. So go to heritage.org/Levin, that's heritage.org/Levin, and get your free copy today. That's heritage.org/Levin, paid for by the Heritage Foundation. So we have a ceasefire with different elements. I was watching J.D. Vance on with Brett Baer. It was actually quite good, I thought. And this was being discussed to the moment he came on television, apparently. The president's been on the phone with many of these various mediators and the Israelis and so forth and so on. So I look forward to reading carefully what it is. See, here's my thinking. Just my personal opinion. I've said from day one, any agreement with this regime, they will violate. So the crucial thing to me is, what will it be about this agreement, whatever it is, to ensure that they don't violate it? And so that'll be key. They don't have an agreement yet. So if you have an opinion on what this agreement should do, now's the time to voice it. Because there is no agreement, actually. But that said, the nuclear program has been destroyed. Their military has been destroyed. But they're going to survive. I'm just curious if that's okay with this audience. I'm just curious. The so-called supreme leader, who's a supreme Nazi, he lives, he survives. He lives, he survives. I wonder what War Room thinks about this. It should be called Appeasement Room, as he blusters on and does what he does. We don't care what Carlson thinks. We know what he thinks. But it'll be very important to see what this is, because, or if there is an agreement, just to cease fire. But I'll very definitely want to know, what is it? How's it going to be enforced? So in that respect, you're back to square one. I'll be right back. Are you concerned about the rising number of judges who've been limiting President Trump's executive orders? Now, if you're not concerned yet, you should be. When these judges use injunctions to block President Trump's attempts to fulfill his mandate from the American people, it is we, the people, who lose out. Thankfully, the Heritage Foundation has the policy solutions to stop these threats to our judicial system. So go to heritage.org and get your free copy of the How to Stop Activist Judges ebook. This resource explains exactly what these judges judges are doing, why it matters, and how under the Constitution they can be stopped. President Trump's agenda is in danger, but even more importantly, the safety of Americans and the future of our nation could be at stake. So please go to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin. Get your free ebook today. That's heritage.org/Levin, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
When the going gets tough, a tough get. Mark Levin. Call him now at 877-381-3811.
It's clear if Donald Trump was not president, Iran would have nuclear weapons. It's that simple. The Democrats, media, isolationists, the American lasters, like Greene, like Bannon, like Tarleton, like Gaetz. God, what a Star Wars bar scene that is. That they have no strength, they have no pull, they have no numbers. They did everything they could to prevent him from ordering our military to take out those sites, but he did it. He had faith in our military, he had faith in his own principles. He understood there was no choice. You understand there's no choice. Massive majorities of you, the American people, wanted those sites taken out. He did what no president before him was willing to do. None. Clinton, Obama, and of course Biden, who funded the enemy. Clinton refused to bomb the nuclear site in North Korea in 1996. So 2006, they came out with nuclear weapons, and now a nuclear weapon. Now they have 50, on the way to 90. So President Trump hadn't done what he did. Despite these countervailing pressures, Iran would be a nuclear Iran. I have no doubt the Houthis would have a nuclear weapon. They talk about the sleeper cells in America. Well, those sleeper cells have been here for years. They didn't just come here over the weekend. I have no doubt they would have tried to get a dirty bomb. Just think of all the possibilities, the ifs. I hear people say, including some of my friends in broadcast, now let's see what the sleeper cells do. Now let's see what they do to our military sites. Now let's see. They act like we don't have experience with this country. They act like they're just as stupid as Marjorie Taylor Greene, who said Iran has never killed an American. They've been killing and maiming and spreading terrorism. They don't need a quote-unquote reaction to what took place in order to keep doing it, and they're going to keep doing it. Look, whether it's Iran, whether it's Hamas, whether it's Hezbollah, the Muslim Brotherhood, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Islamic Jihad, and the list goes on and on and on, they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop. Because they believe their faith, as perverse as their approach to their faith is to kill us. That's what God's mandate is. So they kill Muslims who don't agree with them. They kill Jews and Christians. They don't care. Atheists, gay people, they particularly hate. They hate us, America. And they're not going to stop. Even if Iran were wiped off the face of the earth, they're not going to stop. I'm sorry to pour reality on us, but they're not. Let me tell you what's not going to happen to prove my point. We have terrorist working groups, local, state, federal, law enforcement. They're not going away. TSA at the airports, it's not going away. Terrorist units within virtually every metropolitan police department, certainly every federal law enforcement entity, they're not going away. The fence around the White House isn't going away. The bulletproof glass when the president speaks, that's not going away. It's not going away. Of course we have homegrown nut jobs. But we also have terrorists. They're not going away. It's very, very important to understand this. You can only do what you can do. Iran still is a horrendous danger. They're plotting. The communist Chinese are plotting. North Korea is plotting, and so many others. They're not going to back down. North Korea is going to build more nukes. China is going to continue to build up its military as it eyeballs Taiwan, islands off of Japan, Philippines, and beyond. I mean, what the hell? They're on both sides of the Panama Canal. That's not a mistake. They're militarizing the Arctic Circle. That's not a mistake. They have bases in the middle of the Pacific, including in Saipan, where my great-uncle fought. That's not a mistake. They have a base on the west coast of Africa facing our coast. That's not a mistake. These are dangerous, dangerous, dangerous entities. So we can go around with the modern-day peaceniks, even though some of them are fat and slovenly, even though some of them pretend to be ultra-patriotic, even though they pretend to support our troops when they undermine our troops in a time of a battle like this. They have the same voices, the same mindset, and we know this because of Tlaib and Omar and Bernie Sanders, with whom they've united. And so this is a forever fight within the United States. If we want to be safe and free, if you want your children and grandchildren to be the like, this enemy is not going away. One day it's Iran, it's going to be another country, and so forth and so on. What do you want to do, warmonger? What do you mean, what do I want to do? I don't want to go to war with every country. And we're not. It's impossible. It would also be stupid. I told you foreign policy is based on prudence, not ideology. Prudence, not ideology. Each case has to be taken with its facts, intelligence, history, who's in charge. There's a whole long list of things that need to be taken into consideration, far above my pay grade, and that's why we have the great military that we do. They help us figure these things out. That said, all these protections we have in place in our homeland, whatever this ceasefire is or whatever deal is made, they're not going to go away. Are they? Well, why not? Because the enemy is the enemy. They're not going away. The Islamist Nazi terrorists are not going away. If they can take down another building with 1,000 Americans in it, they're going to do it. If they can assassinate our president, they're going to do it, or at least try. If they can slaughter people in a mall or plant bombs or shoot people in the back when they're leaving an event, or burn people alive who are protesting, they're going to do it. They're going to do it. And it's not because of what happened in Iran. Everything I just mentioned to you happened before what took place over this weekend. The sleeper cells have been here. The assassination attempt on our president took place. These terrorist front groups are in our country. Not because the Israelis destroyed the Iranian military, not because our military destroyed their nuclear sites. They're here. And there's going to be more of them. They have children and grandchildren. We have federal judges who keep releasing them. They're here. They're roaming the streets. They're destroying our schools. They're creating a whole new mindset in this country, which is embraced by these fake MAGA guys, which is embraced by the Democrat Party, which is embraced by much of the media. This is why we must continue to speak out. We must be resolute. Ignore the slogans and the bumper sticker statements about warmongers and neocons and who's more principled than the next. None of that matters. None of it. This is a fake cabal. This is a fake media and a very, very dangerous Democrat Party. Very dangerous. You have the Arab countries in the Middle East who've united against Iran tonight because they were never supporters of Iran, except for Qatar, who Carlson has praised. But even Qatar got its dander up, if you will. This thing about Iran and the shooting of the missiles, I mean, the president all but said the whole thing was play acting. They hid nothing. They were shot out of the sky. The Qataris got a heads up. The United States got a heads up. And apparently the Israelis got a heads up. So they get to save face. This is a regime that is likely now to remain in place unless the Iranian people rise up, which is less likely, I think, at this point. Less likely at this point. That's my take on it. Now, there are people who will try and twist it and attack it. Anytime you want to know what I say, you listen. If you can't listen live, you go to our website, marklevinshow.com. We keep 4 years' worth of archives there. 4 years. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
President Trump is in Washington with a mandate from the American people to solve the border crisis, reverse the effects of Bidenflation, and restore American greatness. But since January 20, judges across our country have consistently been blocking President Trump's attempts to fulfill his mandate. The Heritage Foundation has been analyzing the situation, and they've been able to identify the legal issues with these judges' actions, as well as the solutions that can end this potential crisis. Now, to see the results of the Heritage's analysis for yourself, go to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin. There you'll gain exclusive access to the Heritage Foundation's guide to solving the problem of limiting President Trump's executive actions. Stopping these judges might be the only way to protect Americans and take back our nation. So go to heritage.org/Levin, that's heritage.org/Levin, and get your free copy today. That's heritage.org/Levin, paid for by the Heritage Foundation. Again, I want to repeat, it's clear that if President Trump was not president, can you imagine? Kamala Harris? The Democrats are very upset that our president and our military have succeeded spectacularly, even calling for impeachment. I don't know who's sicker, the fake MAGA cabal or the Democrats and their media. And the Democrats, the media, and the isolationists did everything they could to prevent the president from ordering our heroic military to take out those sites. But he did. They've done everything possible to smear and libel him and to smear and libel his partner and friend, the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, and their military, which effectively defeated the Iranian military in 48 hours and helped lay a path, as the Joint Chiefs 4-star general pointed out, to help us with our bombers to take out those sites. He did what no president did before him. The entire free world should enthusiastically and openly thank the president. The isolationists should apologize. They should apologize, but they won't. They're too stupid, and they're grifters. Europe can now come out of the closet. The Arab countries can now stop their war of words against Israel while praying the American-Israeli alliance succeeded. We can all sleep a little easier. President Trump is a historic and iconic figure. You don't have to agree with everything he says or does. We've talked about this before. So if you disagree with something, that's perfectly fine. But if your goal is to undermine him, to smear him, to cripple him, to stab him in the back, that's quite a different thing. This is why that little cabal will be forever remembered as detestable Lilliputians. Forever remembered. We'll see what the ceasefire results in. We'll talk about it on this program. We'll see if there's some kind of deal. I'd be very curious to see what that looks like, but who knows? Who knows? What we have so far is that within 24 hours, fighting will stop. Should be very interesting. Whether the regime, the Islamo-Nazi regime in Iran, if it stops, will its proxy stop the Houthis? Will its proxy stop Hezbollah? Will its proxy stop Hamas? Be very interesting. Remember, we had a deal with the Houthis that they couldn't shoot at our planes anymore and our ships. Remember that, Mr. Producer? That it excluded Israel. That wasn't so good. And so we'll be here to examine it, ask questions about it, and hopefully everywhere possible support all the efforts that are taken. But again, not to sabotage. That's a completely different issue. This is my problem with the left, the Democrats, the media, and the isolationists. They're saboteurs. I want you to remember this day. They told you that there would be a regional war. They lied. They told you there would be World War III. They lied. That's what they told you. And now they'll tell you that any time we're hit by terrorists, doesn't matter who or where, that's a result of what President Trump and Israel did. They're liars. We were hit by terrorists before, a lot of them. Think about 9/11, for God's sakes. Long time before this. Again, we're up against an enemy that does not share our values, that does not have our mindset, which is why we will continue to have our defenses in place militarily, law enforcement. The border must remain secured, and it will remain secured under this president. All right, let me see here, Mr. Producer. You just sent me something. Let me do this. By the way, can I say one other thing? I'm so proud of you folks in this audience. I really am. You don't live on the internet, thank God. You don't live in the comment sections, which I really read. You're real Americans. You have a life to lead. You follow the law, you work hard, and you pay your taxes, and you expect your government to defend you and protect you. That's not irrational. That's what the government's supposed to do, and that's what it just did. That's what it just did. We all know that the regime could not have a nuclear weapon. But finally, we have somebody who put his foot down. The problem is we actually had people in our country. We actually had people in our country who were opposed to stopping them. Opposed to stopping them. We'll never forget them. Nor will I relent. We will continue to expose them. Whether they be in the Democrat Party, the media, or whether they be fake MAGA or anybody else. We got a lot going on, folks. A couple of great guests. Stick with us. I know you're going to want to. We'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Marc Levin.
Welcome back, America. Marc Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. We have Marc Thiessen with us of AEI and a columnist for the Washington Post and somebody I respect enormously. Marc, let me ask you a question here. And I'm a little concerned. I mean, I'm reading that a senior Iranian official has confirmed that they're in for a ceasefire. Then I read another report that another senior Iranian official says we never heard from the United States. Either way, you have the Israelis who've been fighting for almost 2 years, Iran, through its proxies and so forth. They've had hostages murdered. There's still hostages in with Hamas. You see what they did with Hezbollah. The Houthis, we made a deal with the Houthis, but it didn't include the Israelis. They've been taking ballistic missiles in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem and all around the country. For a little country like that, they've lost a hell of a lot of IDF soldiers. They have these brilliant tactics with Iran, and they took out a lot of their radar systems and other things, and they built a path, as the head of the Joint Chiefs mentioned, that in part allowed us to do what we did with the nuclear sites. Where are we going with this?
Well, I think the happiest person in the world, if Iran is not agreeing to peace, is Bibi, because he's got free reign to do whatever he wants in Iran right now. I mean, if the Iranians want to commit suicide, let them. They have almost no air defenses. They've taken out more than half of their ballistic missiles. Their terror networks have been decimated. The skies of Syria are being used to shoot down Iranian missiles instead of Syria being a transit way for a weapons pipeline to Iran's terror proxies. And they just showed their total weakness by firing 14 missiles at Al Udeid and warning us ahead of time so we could shoot them down, because they wanted to have a symbolic strike to respond to what we did. I mean, this regime.
Let's try it a different way.
Yeah.
Let's say they say yes. What do you want us to sign? Then what?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's where we're headed. I mean, the outcome is inevitable. The regime is either they have a choice. They're either going to stop fighting and stop attacking and agree to whatever the heck Donald Trump wants them to do, or they're going to be decapitated. I mean, Trump has said, what's wrong with regime change?
Now,
which is a wake-up call to the isolationist right. I'm happy to take them out if that's what they choose. It's up to them.
But my question is, what would a paper agreement look like? You have Hamas, you have Hezbollah, you have the Houthis. How would they be part of this agreement? In other words, those are still entrails of the Islamist terror regime in Tehran, no?
Yeah, so the whatever agreement it is, it's the surrender on the deck of the USS Missouri. It's a complete and total surrender. That's what Donald Trump wants. And that means no more support for terrorism, no more support, no more pursuing nuclear weapons, verifiable destruction of what's left of your enriched uranium. They don't have any centrifuges anymore, thanks to those brilliant B-1 flyers from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri. And the peaceful completion of the mission that was carried out on Saturday night, or we can just let Israel continue to pummel them until there's nothing left. It's their choice.
I'm not sure I agree with your parallel on the Missouri. I like it, but it did take 2 atomic bombs. You understand what I mean? It's not like...
Yeah, no, I know. You know what? We dropped 420 pounds of 420,000 pounds.
But we did not drop it on Tehran, did we? Did we?
No, we did not.
Did we drop it on a city?
True. That's fair.
Okay,
fair.
Let's be honest about it. All right. So that said, and we shouldn't, but it's a different circumstance.
Our enemy's the regime, not the people.
Now, what do you say to people who seem to be lying in wait, these isolationists and others, if there's a terrorist attack on us and so forth, then they want to figure out a way to attach it to what's taking place? Let me ask you something. Have there been terrorist attacks before Saturday night?
Before Saturday night, except for Al-Qaeda on 9/11, no one had killed more Americans than the Iranian regime. Mm-hmm. You go back to the Marine barracks bombing, to the bombings in Saudi Arabia, to the explosively that person Marjorie Taylor Greene, who said, "I don't know any Americans who've been killed by Iran."
Oh my God!
What a moron! I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, she is a moron.
She's an idiot. The Iran has killed more. The idea that we're getting dragged into a Middle Eastern war. Iran has been at war with us since 1979 when they took the hostages. Mm-hmm. They've been at war with us. We're just completing it. So this was, and the other thing is this whole idea of a MAGA schism over this is such fake news. The Reagan Institute poll came out, and it showed 90% of MAGA, self-described MAGA Republicans support Donald Trump in ending Iran's nuclear program. And I bet you since Saturday night, the other 10% have come around. The Tucker Carlsons of the world, the Marjorie Taylor Greenes of the world, if we still had phone booths, that's where they'd be meeting, except they don't have a place to meet anymore because there are no more phone booths.
It's so true, and yet the media plays them up. This group, Mediaite, The Independent, The Washington, they all call me. They want to comment and so forth. Say again?
Because they're loud. They're loud. It's like a stomping their feet. And by the way, Mark, it's not just. It's not just.
Go ahead, buddy. I'm sorry. How about that go?
Say the U.S. 20% say we should be less engaged and react to events. 84% say the U.S. has a moral obligation to stand up for human rights and democracy wherever possible. 71% support responding to defend a NATO ally if they were attacked by Russia. I mean, and also, I want to say, I don't have the number, 73% say that we should send military forces to defend Taiwan if it's attacked or by China. That's MAGA voters. That's not. In fact, the MAGA Republicans are more hawkish and less isolationist than establishment Republicans who say they're not part of the MAGA movement.
And you wrote a brilliant column on this in the Washington Post today, which I think I linked to, although I resent subscribing to those damn people. That's just me. Yeah, I mean, when you look at this, really, I mean, you got a guy like Bannon who calls his podcast the War Room. Shouldn't he call it the appeasement room? And then you have Marjorie Taylor Greene, me speaking, perhaps the lowest of the IQs up there, that the Iranians never killed Americans. I mean, we literally have dead soldiers in our military cemeteries. We have citizens. We have people that come out of Georgia. How reckless and ignorant is a statement like that? And then we have Tarlson today who praises Qatar. Not Israel, not that. So the idea that these people, and that I think, Marc Thiessen, this is why the media push these guys, because they want the world to think that they represent us. They represent nobody.
Yeah, they represent nobody. They don't represent the MAGA movement, but they thought that Donald Trump was with them because Donald Trump said that we're not going to get dragged. We have a bad connection. Republicans, and so they thought that he was going to be one of them. And the greatest joy of this whole Israeli campaign and now U.S. Israeli campaign, other than seeing the Iranian nuclear program going up in flames, is seeing the isolationist right go up in flames, and discovering that Donald Trump is not an isolationist, and neither is the MAGA movement.
And I don't know why that was ever hard to understand, because he was talking about taking out these nukes from day one. I mean, he's been the most consistent and vocal about it. And it's not like the Iranian regime was going to volunteer it, so he played them out as long as he could. But they were never going to say, you know what, you've convinced us. After 40 years and hundreds of billions of dollars, wanting to blow up the United States and the Jews and other Muslims who don't agree with it, you know what, you've convinced us. And they were never going to do that. So I think it was Trump who played them rather than they playing Trump, don't you think?
Absolutely. And look, this is the guy who destroyed ISIS. This is the guy who killed Qasem Soleimani. This is the guy who launched a cyber attack on Russia to take out their troll farm in St. Petersburg that was interfering in our elections. Who killed who bombed Syria twice for using chemical weapons on its people. This guy was never an isolationist. He has peace strength. The reason why we didn't get dragged into any war in his first term is because everybody was afraid of him. He didn't retreat from the world. He made our enemies retreat.
And you make a great point. I just want to emphasize it because I've been making it as well. But your piece is very articulate, which is MAGA is not divided. The percentage of people who voted for Trump and identify with Make America Great Again, a Reagan term, were never these kooky isolationists that felt that under no circumstances do you ever use the United States military even to defend yourself against an Islamo-Nazi regime with nuclear weapons. That's suicide, isn't it?
Yep. They're like rats on a ship. They jumped on the MAGA ship and they hitched a ride, hoping that they would take them to where they wanted to go, and they found out that there's an exterminator on board.
I do think it's very important, as excited as we are about all this, and we should be, to understand what this ceasefire means, to understand if there's going to be a deal later. Yep. Given the mindset of these people. It's not like the West in any respect. And it is very important that in their defeat, in their military defeat, because let's face it, the Israelis defeated their military in 48 hours. I mean, now they're dealing with ballistic missiles, but they have nothing, zero. Yep. And they had to defeat all their proxies, too, just about. And, of course, our magnificent Air Force, what they did, and Navy and everybody else who was involved. We just had to make sure, because I know enough about history, this isn't even about Donald Trump. We just had to make sure that the quote-unquote peace or the aftermath of this doesn't just put these people off for a generation where they're back. See what I mean?
Yeah. I agree with you 100%. But he's right to try and give them a peaceful option out. Look, I remember, I'm old enough to remember, because like you, I served in the Reagan administration. I was an intern in the last year of the Reagan administration. There were a lot of conservatives who criticized Ronald Reagan for talking to Gorbachev. Howard Phillips called him a useful idiot of Soviet communism. And he ended up bringing down the Soviet Union. There's nothing wrong with talking to your enemies. The difference that Donald Trump faces from Ronald Reagan is that he doesn't have a Gorbachev. He's got a Putin. He's got an Ayatollah Khamenei, and they're not willing to do what Gorbachev was willing to do. So you have to have an interlocutor, but that doesn't mean you don't try. You don't give them the option, because you never know what they're going to do. But he's willing to. He's not negotiating out of weakness. He just backed it up with B-2 bombers. He's negotiating out of strength, and so God bless him. If he can get them to cry uncle, or amo as they say in Persian. Is the Persian word for uncle, then good for him. And if not, we can do it the hard way.
And maybe that's what he's about here. Maybe he's saying, look, let's do this one more time, this dance. Yeah. And if they don't come along again, even if they sign something, they don't adhere to it, then that's that. It's the end of them. That possible? Yep. It
is possible. And by the way, I would also remind everybody that this has echoes across the world. Xi Jinping is watching this. I think a Chinese invasion of Taiwan, the chances of that happening on Trump's watch have gone down like dramatically. I think Putin is going to be very careful now, and maybe a little bit more chastened in his dealing with Ukraine when Donald Trump says stop bombing. I think this is going to have impact in other parts of the world. North Korea, taking note. He's made not just the Middle East, America safer. He's not just made Israel safer. He's made the whole world safer by what he's done.
You've done a great job, my friend. I appreciate you very much. Keep at it out there.
Well, I've made it as a commentator because I've been on Life, Liberty, and Levin. And now I've been on your radio show. I have arrived finally after all these years of struggling.
Wait a minute. Marjorie Taylor Greene says I have no audience. What do you say to that?
Oh. Well, maybe she'd have an audience if she came on your show.
That'll never happen. All right. Thank you, brother. You take care of yourself. God bless. He's a good guy. We'll be right back.
Marc Levin.
Pure Talk, my wireless company, a veteran-led company, believes every man and woman who has faithfully served this country deserves to proudly fly an American flag that was made in America. And listen to this. That's why Pure Talk is on a mission to give an allegiance flag, the highest quality American flag ever, to 1,000 U.S. veterans in time for the patriotic holidays. Switch your cell phone service to Pure Talk today. Know that you're supporting a company that will be providing these high-quality flags made in America to deserving veterans. With plans from just $25 a month for unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data, you can enjoy America's most dependable 5G network while cutting your cell phone bill, in many cases, in half. The average Pure Talk family saves over $1,000 a year. Just go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin to switch hassle-free in as little as 10 minutes. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin. Switch to a wireless company that supports our veterans, that is patriotic, based right here in America. Switch to Pure Talk. This is Hakeem Jeffries at a press conference today. This guy is really pathetic. Go ahead.
Donald Trump and his actions, which do not appear to be consistent with the United States Constitution, takes unilateral offensive military action without seeking the approval of the United States Congress. The use of military force which is offensive in nature, must be approved by the House and the Senate. That's according to the Constitution. It's not optional, Donald. It's not. The framers of the Constitution actually gave Congress the power to declare war for a reason. So the American people, through their elected representatives, would have the opportunity to debate the issue.
Mm-hmm. Well, this guy's a liar. You can read the Constitution. You can read the 1973 War Powers Act. You can do any of those things. He never said a damn word when Biden was firing missiles and Obama was firing missiles and so forth and so on. But now they claim to be using the Constitution. I hope you were able to watch Life, Liberty, and Levin last night, where I explained not only is the War Powers Act unconstitutional, it's utterly unworkable, and presidents have violated it all the time because, number one, it's utterly unworkable. Number two, many of them have felt it's unconstitutional. Although that said, this presidency has complied with it. Apparently, Chuck Schumer was informed in advance, and apparently Hakeem Jeffries didn't take their calls. He learned about it soon after the mission started, as Secretary Hegseth pointed out. But none of that matters. You're dealing with, well, I wrote the book, The Democrat Party Hates America. You're dealing with elements in our country, very strange people, very weird thought processes, a cabal, a small coalition with the Marxist Islamists and the isolationists. One group keeps claiming they're real MAGA. Another group keeps claiming they're constitutionalists now. Well, they're not real MAGA, and the other ones aren't real constitutionalists. Donald Trump did exactly the right thing, and he did it exactly the right way. And yes, books will be written about this. No question about it. And they should be. Very important. But this is what we're going to have to defend against now. We're going to have to defend against this. And the radical libertarians, the Tom Masseys and the Rand Pauls, again, they have an outsized voice because the media give it to them. The dumber the Republican, the more kooky the Republican, the more attention they get, because that's how they want to define Republicans. They want MAGA to fail, so they want the public to believe that there's this great split in MAGA. There's no split in MAGA when you have 75-80% of MAGA who voted for Donald Trump supporting what he's done. There's no split. But there's grifters in the media, too, just like there are in politics. Today's not the day you celebrate Qatar, Qatarlson, moron. You celebrate the president, the United States military, the prime minister, and the Israeli military. Hard words to choke through your mouth, aren't they? As for you in the war room, the only war going on is between your ears. That's it. He's out there trashing Netanyahu, wants an investigation of anyone who supports Israel. I want an investigation of him, a criminal investigation of him and his connections to this Chinese billionaire. I'm not making any allegation. I'll be right back. Pure Talk, my wireless company, a veteran-led company, believes every man and woman who has faithfully served this country deserves to proudly fly an American flag that was made in America. And listen to this. That's why Pure Talk is on a mission to give an allegiance flag, the highest quality American flag ever, to 1,000 U.S. veterans in time for the patriotic holidays. Switch your cell phone service to Pure Talk today. Know that you're supporting a company that will be providing these high-quality flags made in America to deserving veterans. With plans from just $25 a month for unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data, you can enjoy America's most dependable 5G network while cutting your cell phone bill, in many cases, in half. The average Pure Talk family saves over $1,000 a year. Just go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin to switch hassle-free in as little as 10 minutes. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin. Switch to a wireless company that supports our veterans, that is patriotic, based right here in America. Switch to Pure Talk.
Marc Levin doesn't just read the news, he makes the news. Call the Marc Levin Show now at 877-381-3811.
The enemy, whose military has been defeated by the Israelis, and whose nuclear program has been destroyed by our president and our military, survives. We shall see how things unfold now. I have been and remain highly skeptical of deals made with terrorists who have a half-century record of killing Americans, Israelis, and anyone else in their way, and refused to voluntarily abandon their nuclear weapons, lying and deceiving every step of the way. Perhaps this is another strategy. Perhaps POTUS believes this will smoke them out. And if they do not adhere to some agreement, then all bets are off. They've already been smoked out. And will whatever is agreed to include their proxies? Will Russia stop supplying ground-to-air missile defense systems? Will China stop selling the regime fuel for their ballistic missiles? Will they stop building ballistic missiles? We shall see how this plays out. Is that fair, Mr. Producer? We shall see how this plays out. No criticism. No sabotage. Questions. You know, when you ask questions the right way, they're constructive. They're constructive. People begin to think about, well, what might the answer be? If we do come up with some arrangement, what should be included? It's called being constructive, not sabotaging. Tim Kaine on Fox News Sunday. See, here's the thing. Let me just stop. The people with the most radical positions draw the press's attention. The people who stand up to the people with the most radical positions also draw the press's attention. We have Democrats and a handful of Republicans that are saying things about the Constitution that are not true. At best, you can say some of it is debatable. I don't believe it is, but at best, you can say that. They go on these Sunday shows, they go on these TV shows, and they verbally bang the table that the President of the United States has violated the Constitution. No, he has not. And that he ought to be impeached. No, he must not. And then they go to the Republicans, of course, a handful of them, because that makes it bipartisan. You should always be skeptical of the media, with very few exceptions, because they are not about professionalism. They are not about seeking out news and reporting it. They are about creating pseudo-events. They're about creating disunity. And more it's getting worse. Why? Because it's about getting hits. It's about getting clicks. That's how you determine your advertising rates. In the lower tier podcast world, not the greats, the lower tier podcast world, the way you get listeners is by being the biggest nut on the face of the earth. And so we have the war room from a guy who calls everybody a warmonger because he's an idiot. He doesn't even realize how stupid he sounds. We have a congresswoman who thinks she can fundraise by being the dumbest member of the House of Representatives. No, of course, Iran didn't kill any Americans. Or the guy who found a TV platform was officially certified, in effect, by a bipartisan committee of the House of Representatives of being a Class A pervert. This is quite a crowd. Then we have another one. The first thing that he thinks important today is to praise Qatar. They all hate Israel. They all hate Netanyahu. They all claim to be MAGA. They all stab Donald Trump in the back. Again, you can give an opinion. It can be different. That's okay. We don't walk in lockstep with anybody. Not a spouse. Not Ronald Reagan. Look at what some of the things George Washington did. That's not the point. That's different than being a saboteur. And knowingly being a saboteur, that's a whole different ballgame. There are going to be people who question. Why would you throw a truce out there when the Iranians are so badly losing? This was never about regime change. I didn't talk about regime change. I'm talking about defeating an enemy. Haven't we talked about forever wars, Mr. Producer? So how do you end a forever war? You defeat the enemy once and for all. Don't you? Yes. So suddenly, we have this. I hope this plays out well. It would be great for the world. Trust me on this. It would be great for the world. I believe that. So they bring Thomas Massie on Face the Nation. Why do they bring him on? Why do they bring him on? He and maybe 4, 5, 6 others have a view that's similar to Tim Kaine, similar to Hakeem Jeffries, similar to the man on the moon. And so this is how he gets on Face the Nation. Why? Because they want him on Face the Nation to sabotage him. Let me tell you something, America. I've gotten calls from the Washington Post. I've gotten calls from media outlets all over the world who want a quote from me. They've handed out my phone number, so I've had to block that. Now, why do they want a quote from me? When I sit here, as I have for decades, and I talk about all sorts of things, hot issues, philosophy, economics, they don't want a quote from me. Why do they want a quote from me now? You see, because they want to play this up. This divide in MAGA. They're not interested in what's really going on. You heard Marc Thiessen, who's fantastic. I've talked about this too. This divide doesn't exist. But they want it to exist. And I am not going to contribute to their pseudo-news and their ideological agenda. I could talk to the Washington Post and blow out these reprobates. In fact, I'd have a lot of fun doing it. But I'm not going to let them use me in this program that way. They're going to do it anyway, but I'm not going to personally talk to them and contribute to it. One of the reasons I wanted this guy, Colby Hall, who's a founding senior editor or whatever he is at Mediocre, is to get him on here and ask him, what are you doing? What is your mission? How do you guys function? What is it that you're doing? What is your purpose? What's with these headlines? But he didn't want to come on. So he trucks along without any challenge. But I'm going to continue to challenge all of it. All of it. Here's Thomas Massie on Deface the Nation. Margaret Brennan, who is horrendous, absolutely horrendous. So you know when you're talking to Margaret Brennan where she's coming from. Go ahead.
The Speaker of the House, who is from your own party, has really rejected this. He says the Article 1 power of Congress really allows for the president to do this. It was a limited, necessary, targeted strike, he says.
Well, he's probably referring to the War Powers Act of 1973, but that's been misinterpreted. There was no imminent threat to the United States, which was what would authorize that. And I think that's peculiar to hear that from the Speaker.
Excuse me, Tommy. It was passed in 1973 over the veto of Richard Nixon, and it was passed because people were angry about the Vietnam War. That's right. And he didn't have the votes. They didn't have the votes to use the power of the purse to defund it until sometime later, and not much later, when Gerald Ford was president. They voted to defund, no more monies for the Vietnam War, supermajorities of both houses, and that's how they ended the Vietnam War. Not with a phony statute that attempts to amend the Constitution and violates separation of powers. Let me ask you this, folks. Forget about the name War Powers Act, the Constitution. Forget about it all. Do you think Congress, this Congress, that can't get a budget done, that is split right down the middle, that can't get us our tax cuts, that before Trump couldn't secure the border, do you think that group of 535 members should be in charge of war? Well, that was actually discussed at the Constitutional Convention. We know this because of Madison's notes. And you know what they said? No. They created, in this new presidency, they created the commander-in-chief. He's the head of the army. And they had the power of the purse. If you can get enough votes and get it over the veto of a president, you can cut off war. It's not even war he's talking about. There's not a war. What Donald Trump did wasn't a war. If it was a war, it's the fastest World War III in human history. It wasn't a war. It's a military pinpointed operation. The Israelis are fighting a ground war and an air war and a war period. We hit their nuclear sites, which is absolutely crucial. So they wave around the War Powers Act. Let me ask you, do you think Congress should have the power to order a president to remove troops from the field, Mr. Medusa? Do you think they should have a power to order the president to stop a military engagement in the middle of an engagement in America? And not just affirmatively. The way the statute is written is the president presents Congress with all this information and documents about what's going on. And if Congress doesn't act on the documents, by their inaction, he must pull the troops. Do you think that's a good idea, America? Do you think the framers of your Constitution would have agreed to one damn syllable of that? They had just fought a revolution that actually began in 1775. And John Yoo, who's the expert on this, I am one too, but he's the man, said they didn't issue a declaration called the Declaration of Independence until 1776. The Declaration of War Clause in the Constitution is not a declaration to make war. You know how we know that? Because they changed the language at the Constitutional Convention from a declaration to make war to a declaration to declare war, like the Declaration of Independence. That was their experience. The declaration to declare war is not what triggers a war response. It is a statement of the body politic to declare war, not make war. You can only make war with the funding that Congress has provided you. If Congress wants to withdraw the funding, it absolutely has the power to do it. You know why they don't do that? Because they don't have the votes. And let's say they did have the votes. President has to sign it, so he vetoes it. You think they have a supermajority? Of course not. And so these reprobates who present themselves as the pure constitutional, they're liars. They're damnable liars. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Pure Talk, my wireless company, a veteran-led company, believes every man and woman who has faithfully served this country deserves to proudly fly an American flag that was made in America. And listen to this. That's why Pure Talk is on a mission to give an allegiance flag, the highest quality American flag ever, to 1,000 U.S. veterans in time for the patriotic holidays. Switch your cell phone service to Pure Talk today. Know that you're supporting a company that will be providing these high-quality flags made in America to deserving veterans, with plans from just $25 a month for unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data. You can enjoy America's most dependable 5G network while cutting your cell phone bill, in many cases, in half. The average Pure Talk family saves over $1,000 a year. Just go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin to switch hassle-free in as little as 10 minutes. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin. Switch to a wireless company that supports our veterans, that is patriotic, based right here in America. Switch to Pure Talk. A lot of people have received not a formal copy, but one of these sort of paper copies of my new book on power. It comes out very soon now, July 29th. I hope you'll take a moment to order your copy at Amazon.com, where it's discounted. And the more people who order, the better the discount, and over time it will get better. I have sent it to people because I want them to read it and tell me what they think, and I've got to be honest with you, they love it. Well, Mark, that's because of your friend. No, I've had people raised questions. My father. I sent him Liberty and Tyranny. He said, this is going to sell 1 million copies. I said, you're my father. That's why. He said, no. I hadn't heard from him for a week. He said, no, this is going to sell 1 million copies. I won't tell you which other book, which came soon thereafter, not right after. I said, he said, it's a really great book. Yeah. It's a tough book, Mark. I know what he meant. This is a scholarly book. It's a substantive book. It's an intelligent book. It's a readable book. And as you go through it, you're probably going to turn the corners of the page down. You'll probably take a yellow marker or a pen and mark things that are in the book. I have a very good friend who is a very famous columnist who's been reading it and said it's absolutely a killer. And this is a guy, he's not going to write it up because he doesn't promote books in his columns. But coming from him, that was very much appreciated. So if you get a minute, I know there's a lot swirling around and so forth and so on, but at some point, you got to find a little safe haven in your life each day. Take a little trot over to Amazon.com and order your pre-order copy of On Power. Because I really believe you're going to love this book. I do. Well, Mark, you wrote it. Well, there's some books I love more than others. Tom Massey again on Face the Nation, Deface the Nation, Cut 8, go.
You heard from Mitch McConnell, the former Republican leader, the senator, say it was a bad week for the isolationists. He was talking about Tucker Carlson and he was talking about Steve Bannon. Do you think?
Boy, that hurts. I had to be honest. To have Mitch McConnell say that is not exactly what I'm looking for, Mr. Producer. But it doesn't matter. Go ahead.
Making a choice here, or is he trying to have it both ways? Both saying, I'm going to please the hawks of the party by bombing, but then I'm going to say I want a peace deal and make the isolationists happy by saying, you know, I'm not committing to anything more than one and done.
Well, I'll concede this. It was a good week for the neocons in the military-industrial complex who want war.
I'm so sick of this communist claptrap coming out of the left-wing libertarians and the other isolationist thugs. The neocons and the military-industrial project. I would ask the people in the military, you appreciate this? Who the hell do they think built those bombers, Mr. Producer? Who the hell do they think built those bombs? Who the hell do they think built those nuclear submarines and those ships and those jets? Who the hell do they think built that? Red-blooded Americans. They just dismiss them. The military-industrial complex. Thank God we have the military we do, the industry we do, the patriots we do, unlike this little craphead and the others. I'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Marc Levin.
Hello, America. Marc Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. You know, the hostages are still being held, still being tortured and starved to death. It's as if everybody's forgotten about them, Mr. Producer. It would be nice if there was a footnote somewhere in the media, just somewhere, reminding us of what the Iranians and Hamas have done and that these people are still there. I mean, this war's been fought since October 7th by the Israelis. Even when Biden was president, trying to undermine their great prime minister and their IDF, but they wouldn't allow themselves to be undermined, would they? Despite all the trash talk about Netanyahu, the President of the United States admires him and is a very close friend of his. How do I know? Because the President told me. And so when you have sperm whales like Bannon over there at the war room, tough guy, war room, really the appeasement room would be better. Can we take a short break, Mr. Producer, even though this is real early? Is that possible? Can we do that? All right, I'll wait. I'll wait and call this gentleman back. No, but you said we can't. Well, I don't want to screw the audience out there and everybody else. But I want you to know this. This is ground zero for defending this president. This is ground zero for fighting them on the War Powers Act. And I remain open-minded to what the president is doing. Open-minded. A skeptic, but open-minded. I'm being honest with you. And I hope some of the things I'm raising will be taken into consideration. You see the difference? He's defied us. He screwed us. He stabbed us in the back. I'm never going to support him again. You didn't hear that out of my mouth. Look, you know what's possible? You ready? Donald Trump, he's like way up here. I have my hand way up in the sky. Way up here. I think he can run circles around anybody, and I don't exclude myself. I think his mind is like 10 steps ahead of everybody. And see, I accept that, and I realize that, and I admire it. I certainly do. I just want to make that abundantly clear. And here's the other thing. I trust the man. Again, unlike the isolationists, I trust the man. We have this guy, how do you pronounce it? Kahana, who pretends to be a moderate, actually went to Temple Law School as I did. I don't know him. He's younger. Apparently, he thought there were greener pastures in California, and he's elected from there, and he pretends to be a moderate. He's a kook. And so see, all the Democrats are lining up here. Cut 10, go.
Well, first of all, the strikes were unconstitutional. We can't just go bomb another country in Iran without congressional authorization.
I hate to wake you up, Congressman, but yes, you can. You actually can. Now, people may not like it, so try and amend the Constitution. Go ahead. People may not like it, but it is what it is. You know what people won't like? If Congress is involved in decisions in making war, which the framers said, no way. And we're hit, and we're hit, and we're hit again. And these a-holes, maybe they're on vacation, or these a-holes, maybe they're having an affair on the side, or maybe they're paying for underage prostitutes, like one of our great Republicans was. Remember that, Mr. Producer? Or they're not even prostitutes. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Very, very busy. Maybe they're like Marjorie Taylor Greene. Make sure you add an E to the end. That offends her a lot. Marjorie Taylor Greene, who spends her life on the internet. Yeah. But you can't run a country that way. And no president has agreed to that. No court will agree to it. These are phonies. These are frauds. So every one of these people you hear, whether they're a Democrat or Republican, we just had an incredibly successful military operation, extremely limited in scope, extraordinarily powerful in scope, to stop an Islamic Nazi regime from getting nuclear weapons, which they were actually building and 2 weeks away from having. And they talk about the War Powers Act and impeachment, and that Trump isn't following the Constitution. They're liars. And they have their talking points. They're liars. Let them go to court. Let them sue them. Go to the Supreme Court. See what they say. They won't use the power of the purse because they can't get enough votes. They won't amend the Constitution because they can't get enough votes. They're undermining our military. Our military just carried this out, and these guys are going, oh, they were unconstitutional. That's right. You're rounding up illegal aliens. Violent illegal aliens. Oh, he's a dictator. That's illegal. He can't use the National Guard. He certainly can. And he did, and the court upheld it. You got to get out of these lower courts. Oh, you can't. So you can't bring Islamo-Nazi students who are not citizens. You can't deport them. Since when? Since when? You got this guy Garcia. He beats his wife. He's MS-13. He's human trafficking. You know what a federal Biden judge or magistrate just did? You must release him. Insane. So they believe Joe Biden can do anything he wants, even though he doesn't have his marbles. He can defy Supreme Court rulings. He can move hundreds of billions of dollars around. He can shoot missiles. But Donald Trump comes in, follows the Constitution, and this is what we get. I'll be right back.
Marc Levin.
We have our friend Lee Smith with us. Truly one of the great writers and thinkers over there at Tablet and elsewhere. Lee Smith, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing very well, Mark. Thanks so much for inviting me to speak with you tonight.
It's my pleasure. You wrote a piece today in the Tablet. I want you to explain to the American people why you wrote it and what your points are.
Well, I think the most important point to make is that the quasi-MAGA influencers, I don't know how else to describe them. I know that you have many choice words for them, Mark.
Yes, and they deserve every damn one of them. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
100%. No, I agree. The pseudo-MAGA influencers, what I say is it's just Barack Obama in a skin suit. They're pushing for the exact same pro-Iran policies. They're anti-Israel. And I don't know if they understand the details of this policy, but what it is it's an anti-America policy. That's Iran's number one target. We've been, as the greatest nation in the history of the world, we've been the major power in the Persian Gulf, the Arabian Gulf, however you want to call it, since 1945, when FDR met with the founder of the modern Saudi state, Ibn Saud. The arrangement has been for the United States to protect the oil that the Saudis pump. That makes us the deciding power there. What the Iranians want to do is drive us out. They want to weaken and impoverish America. That's a very big deal. The way they see Israel, no doubt, it is the regime that today embodies anti-Semitism. They hate Israel. They hate Jews. The big target, though, is to destroy, to weaken at least the United States, to push us out of the Gulf, to limit our ability to do anything. They can commit terror attacks here. They can close the Straits of Hormuz, as they've been threatening to. They can't do that without the bomb. But that's the real point, and that's what Obama was doing. He wasn't just looking to hurt Israel. He was looking to cripple the United States. And that's what these pseudo-MAGA influencers are doing as well. They're pushing the exact same policy as Barack Obama pushed.
Do you think this will ever catch up with them? I mean, I have to be honest with you. I'm going to keep a light shine on these people till death do us part. And because I think they're dangerous going forward. They're dangerous in the midterm elections. They're dangerous in the next presidential election because their ideology is, as you say, Barack Obama. I mean, you're talking Bernie Sanders and Tlaib. They sound exactly like each other, do they not?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one difference is this. I think the big difference is that these people are, well, I mean, we see them continue to go on social media and on their podcasts. They continue to rip into President Trump and President Trump's policy, in spite of the fact that Donald Trump has been usually successful in the attacks, and not only in the U.S. attacks, but his support of Israel, which is, I mean, we saw Donald Trump speaking the other night on Saturday night after the attacks, and he himself was virtually choked up about the partnership, the alliance between the U.S. and Israel, and getting important things done for the peace and prosperity of the United States, and for Israel, and for the security of the world. So, these people, again, they continue to go after President Trump, and they're going to keep doing it. I don't see a way out of it, and it struck me finally, they're happy with it because they're losers. They're happy being on the losing side, and what's most important for them is to have a platform to air their grievance, their self-pity, and their resentment. And we've had plenty of figures like this before in American politics, and many of them shared those views. I think they're happy there. So, no, I don't see any reversal.
And what's strange about this particular group is they actually have the history of the 1930s to look at. You know, the people in the 1930s didn't have a whole lot of history to look at. They had some, but they had the history to look at it. And Charles Lindbergh, as bad as he was, he turned out to be quite honorable. He apologized. He was leading the war bond effort, things of that sort. These people don't strike me as honorable, do they, you?
No, they don't. And I mean, I think it's not just the issues in just Germany. If you look at the countries, if you look at the societies who took the dive, who went into this obsessive Jew hatred. Well, I mean, all Jew hatred is obsessive, but if you look at them, we're talking about 19th century Russia. We're talking about 20th century Germany. We're talking about the Arab states. We're talking about the Islamic Republic of Iran. None of these societies have any success. All of these societies wind up as major losers, and that's why I keep coming back to this idea that they're losers. And that's where they're most comfortable losing. I think that they probably misunderstood Donald Trump from the beginning. I think they probably grafted their resentments onto him and believed that's who he was, and they couldn't have been more wrong. This is a man who loves America, who loves American strength, and who loves winning. Let's remember what Donald Trump said in 2015. He wasn't talking about, no more wars, no endless wars. He said, I'm tired of losing wars. I'm tired of us losing trade deals. I'm tired of us losing. We're winners. And that's Donald Trump's whole thing. And you saw what happened. We all saw what happened this weekend. Donald Trump wants to win for America, and he wants to win for American allies, and he chooses our alliances carefully. He picks other winners like Benjamin Netanyahu and Ron Dermer. Ambassador, Minister Dermer deserves an awful lot of credit too. Donald Trump picks winners on behalf of the United States.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point. He wants to win for America. And he is a winner, right? I mean, can you imagine if Kamala Harris had been elected? What would it look like there? I mean, what would it look like that? I mean, for sure, Iran would get nuclear weapons. And for sure, this country would be much less safe, and the rest of the world as well. But you mentioned, and rightly so, Obama, but on something this crucial, you know, they say, we agree with Trump on everything but this. But isn't but this like at the top of the list? Yeah. That is the security of the nation from from nuclear weapens?
I mean, this to me is the other side of open borders. I mean, it's the same thing. Mm-hmm. If you let a regime if you let an insane third world regime have nuclear weapons, it's the same thing as opening your borders to third world lunatics. And that's what's happening. It's part of the same thing. And Donald Trump says, I love America. I'm going to protect America. And if you're going to protect our borders, then you have to protect our interests. And as Donald Trump understands, protect our interests across the world too. And that's what he's doing. I mean, I don't understand what some of these folks think that Donald Trump is going to, that Donald Trump is going to survive the assassination attempt at Butler. He was going to survive that to let Iran break out and build nuclear bombs. I mean, it's absolutely nuts. There's no indication that was ever what Donald Trump was going to do.
All right, my friend. If people want to find you or read this, where do they go?
Right to Tablet. I believe it's on the front page. And Mark, I hope you don't mind. I'm going to take the opportunity. You know, we have a print magazine now at Tablet, which is just a beautiful
I get it. I love
magazine.
It. Yeah,
I'm so glad, and I hope that people will subscribe. It's just a beautiful thing to hold in your hands. And Mark, you know, with all the stuff that's going on, all the nuttiness that's going on online, I mean, Tablet is going back to foundations. It's a print publication. We're still online as well. I don't want people to get disheartened about that, but and that's where I write. I write at Tablet, so I hope people will.
Tablet is a fantastic site, whether online or in. You get the magazine in hand or both, and it is a beautiful magazine. Some of the smartest writers in the country, like Lee Smith, who you just heard. I encourage you to grab it. Lee, take care of yourself, brother. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin, radio's principal patriot. Call in now at 877-381-3811.
You know, the funny thing here, Mr. Producer will tell you, that sometimes I'm writing things and I get disrupted and I post them without adding things that I mean to add. Isn't that right, Rich? I'll say, what the hell? It's just that you're doing so many things and distractions and so forth. But I want to make something clear here. I just added it to my post if I can find the damn thing. Stick with me, America. Stick with me. I'm talking to you. I don't care about the media. Here's my post. The enemy whose military has been defeated by the Israelis and whose nuclear program has been destroyed by our president and military survives, at least for now. We shall see how things unfold now. I have been and remain highly skeptical of deals made with terrorists who have a half-century record of killing Americans, Israelis, and anyone else in their way, and refuse to voluntarily abandon their nuclear weapons, lying and deceiving every step of the way. Perhaps this is another POTUS strategy. Perhaps POTUS believes this will smoke them out, and if they do not adhere to the ceasefire terms or some agreement, then all bets are off. They've already been smoked out, and will whatever is agreed to include their proxies. Will Russia stop supplying ground-to-air missile defense systems? Will China stop selling the regime fuel for their ballistic missiles? Will they stop building ballistic missiles? My prediction, based on all this and more, is that the terrorist regime's belief system and mindset will not be changed at all. Just its tactics, maybe. And again, we shall see how this plays out. And now, I've added, to be absolutely clear, as I didn't finish my post, that President Trump is to be trusted. He wants to win for America, and his record is stellar. I also trust that issues I mentioned here will be part of the process. Plus, Prime Minister Netanyahu has signed on. I mean, that's a big deal, don't you think, Rich? Let's see how it goes. I'm rooting for them. So just to be crystal clear, let's see here. There's something else I wanted to read to you. Oh, here it is. I think. Stick with me, folks. All right. There we have it. There have been conflicting reports. A senior Iranian official has said, yes, it's true. A senior Iranian official, I think told CNN, but one of the reprobate outfits, that it's not correct. I've checked. It is correct. That, in fact, this is where they are. Now, look, anything can change in 10 minutes. All right? Anything can change in 10 minutes. I think they know that. I think the Israelis know it. The president knows it, and so forth. But it is true that this is out there. It is true that the Iranians want a deal. It is true that the Israelis said, okay, let's see what it looks like, and that the president is the maestro. And so in that post, I've raised a number of issues that I think are very pertinent and that I hope will be taken into consideration. But then again, we're talking about a remarkable man, this president. That's what I wanted to emphasize, and that's why I wrote what I wrote, as well as the fact that Bibi Netanyahu is not going to in any way endanger his country and all the accomplishments they made. So you got Trump and you got Netanyahu. Then you have the enemy. I suspect if the enemy does what the enemy is likely to do at some point, then I hope all this is out the window. But I think I've also raised what I think are very important points related to this. I mean, you got the Chinese, you got the Russians, you've got the proxies. So that's, an Iranian, there's things coming up with the transom here. Reports of an Iranian official going on CNN claiming they never got ceasefire orders. That's interesting. We will see. We will see. I read the president's post. There's certain specific things that need to be done. I suspect if they're not done, then all bets are off. There is always that, as far as I can tell. All right, let's get back to this. Bernie Sanders, a man who hates America, a man who is a Stalinist, has worshipped Stalin, a Marxist Islamist, self-hating Jew, the worst of the worst. You have to scrape him off the bottom of your shoe, and he's not the only one. So Donald Trump, taking out the enemy's nuclear sites. Cut 9, go.
And I want to tell you something.
Whoa. Doesn't this sound like one of these phony massive demonstrations by the Islamists in Iran? Not the good Persians. I'm talking about the jihadist Islamists. When you hear them chanting like this, doesn't it? Yeah. Let's start at the top. Go.
And I want to tell you something. Not only is this news that I've just heard this second alarming, that all of you have just heard, but it is so grossly unconstitutional. All of
what
you
a
know.
Drama queen, you damn bastard. That's what you are. It's so grossly unconstitutional. He's a lie. This guy wants a civil war. You know, the Democrats want a civil war, and they want a violent civil war. Let's be honest. They see what goes on in L.A., and they attack ICE, the National Guard, the Marines, the Secretary of Defense, Secretary of DHS, the President of the United States, the Vice President of the United States. That's what they do. They want it. They live by this. Let's just be honest about it. The importation of illegal aliens with criminal records, they don't even want them deported. Well, that's pretty bizarre, don't you think? Not for them. Light on sentences, judges. No prosecutors. I mean, just look at the list. Now, look, I have Adam Schiff here. I've got Jim Hines, Democrat from Connecticut, is apparently the chairman of the Intelligence Committee. You have to actually have no intelligence to be the chairman of the Intelligence Committee. So Marco Rubio is on Face the Nation with this Margaret Brennan, who I despise. I don't know. They go on these shows and they debate them, and some of them do well and some of them don't. Why would Marco Rubio go on that show and not my show, Mr. Producer? When's the last time we asked him? Been a while, right? Let's put this to the test. Let's invite Marco Rubio on the program anytime this week, any day, in any of the 3 hours. Let's see what happens. I'll let you know, America. But here he is. By the way, I admire what he's been doing. Here we have Marco Rubio with Margaret Brennan on Deface the Nation. Cut 14, go.
Let me follow up on a phrase you just word, weaponization ambitions. Are you saying there that the United States did not see intelligence that the Supreme Leader had ordered weaponization?
That's irrelevant. I see that question being asked in the media. That's an irrelevant question.
No,
they have
that is the key point in U.S. intelligence assessment. You know that.
No, it's not.
Yes, it was.
No, it's
that
not.
The political decision had not been made.
I know that better than you know that.
Why don't you let him answer the damn question? You bring in the guest. He's the Secretary of State. He's sitting at the table. He knows what the hell he's talking about. And all you do is you bluster. Let's start at the top again, Mr. Producer. Go ahead.
Let me follow up on a phrase you just word, weaponization ambitions. Are you saying there that the United States did not see intelligence that the Supreme Leader had ordered weaponization?
That's irrelevant. I see that question being asked in the media. That's an irrelevant question.
No,
they have
that is
everything
the
they need
key
to build
point in U.S. intelligence assessment. You know that.
No, it's not.
Yes, it was.
No, it's
that
not.
The political decision had not been made.
I know that better than you know that, and I know that that's not the case.
But I'm asking you whether the order was given.
And the people who say that, it doesn't matter if the order was given. They have everything they need to build nuclear weapons. Why would you bury things in a mountain, 300 feet under the ground?
Right.
Why would you bury why do they have 60% enriched uranium?
Here's what she's saying. Do you have evidence that he ordered it? So Rubio said, do I have evidence that he's ordered? You see that mountain over there? You see what's over there? What do you think's going on in there? We know what's going on in there. See that other mountain over there? We know what's going on over there. See that one over there? We know what's going on. But did he order it? Now, come on, America. Is that not sick? Go ahead.
Sure. The only countries in the world that have uranium at 60% are countries that have nuclear weapons. Because they can quickly make it 90. They have all the elements. They have. Why do they have a space program? Is Iran going to go to the moon? No, they're trying to build an ICBM.
No, but
so
that's a question. That's a question of intent. And you know, in the intelligence assessment, that it was that Iran wanted to be a threshold state and use this leverage. I'm talking about the public March assessment, and that's why I was asking you if you know something more from March.
But that's also an inaccurate representation of it. That's an accurate representation of it. That's not how intelligence is read. That's not how intelligence is used. Here's what the whole world knows. Now, forget about intelligence.
Can we slow down a minute here? Does this sound like a host who wants to get information from the Secretary of State about what actually took place? Does it? Does it? Does it sound like an a-hole who keeps interrupting him and trying to project her views on him? But why did she invite him? This is why I wonder why these guys goes on these, but not just him. I mean, maybe it's worthwhile. Maybe the press people have a reason for this, but my view is these people need to be frozen out. Go ahead.
They are enriching uranium well beyond anything you need for a civil nuclear program. So why would you enrich uranium at 60%? Right. If you don't intend to one day use it to take it to 90 and build a weapon? Right. Why are you developing ICBMs? Why do you have 8,000 short-range missiles and 2,000 to 3,000 long mid-range missiles that you continue to develop? Why do you do all these things? They have everything they need for a nuclear weapon. They have the delivery mechanisms. They have the enrichment capability. They have the highly
You asked him a question. Now he's giving you, like the Rain Man, and that's good. Point by point by point by point. Okay. She's in a hurry. I don't know what's going on. Is she going to the green room to get some donuts? I don't know. She got no patience. That's what my wife says about me. Honey, you don't have any patience. It's true. But then again, this Margaret Brennan, if that is her name, she has no patience. You're interrupting your guest. Now, if it were Bernie Sanders, this is wholly grossly unconstitutional. Shut up, old man. Let's slip in one more, Mr. Producer. John Fetterman on Fox today. I like this guy. He's a good guy. Cut 15, go.
Yeah, well, I mean, for me, I'm sure. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people in my party that are going to disagree with the strike in Iran. And I actually support that. I've been always calling for that thing. I think it was entirely appropriate. And again, there might be votes on that. So for me, that's not a war. That was a very limited military exercise, and it struck that. And then that's where we're at. So really, it really wasn't about unconstitutional or it's anything like that. It was like a very, very limited military engagement, and then it took them out, damaged them severely.
Yeah. You know what? This is a good man. I don't agree with him on a lot, domestic policy, but he's what Democrats used to be. He's relatively moderate on the big issues. And that's the best we can get from a Democrat, and he's really good. And, of course, they want to destroy him. He sounds a lot smarter than Bannon. Or Tarleton, or MTG, no IQ. We'll be right back.
Marc Levin.
See if we can slip in some calls. People have been waiting. Okay, hold on, everybody. Hold on. Here we go. All right, let's just start from the top here. Let's see here. Let's see. All right, let's go to Dave, Phoenix, Arizona, the great KKNT. Go.
Thank you, Mark. Ultra MAGA FEMA Region 9 dittos. What an amazing time to be alive, right?
Yeah, it's the opposite.
Well, I don't know. Thanks be to God for President Donald J. Trump. Amen. We got peace in the Middle East, and that now allows us.
What is with our phone system, Rich? Everybody's coming in and out. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Can you hear me, guys? No, it's okay.
Like every third word.
I'm just glad we have peace in the Middle East, so we can focus on CCP China fentanyl poisoning, which killed 500,000 Americans in the last 4 years.
Oh, you don't think the president's focusing on that either? It was one or the other?
No. He certainly is fighting the 30-front war, and they're all inextricably
He definitely
linked.
is. All right, brother. Thanks for your call. Lance, Kalispell, Montana, the great KJJR.
Good evening, sir.
Good
Hey,
evening.
I just want to I'm a simple nail bender, but I just want to make the observation that you're like the kid that shows up in art class with the 128 color crayon box with the built-in sharpener when the rest of us have got like 8 to 16 colors and 3 or 4 of them are already broken. Secondly,
honest to God, I have no idea what that means, Rich. Do you?
Yeah, you bring me information at such a depth and level that
you're so kind. By the way, I never had that box of crayons. My parents were not. Well, I had what I could get, but thank you for that. You're very kind.
Yes, sir. And then secondly, there's a lot of chatter that you don't hear on news or social media that you only find in Main Street taverns and gatherings on a Friday afternoon, that even some of the people that are, kind of criminal drug dealer members.
You know what? Can we get this gentleman's number, Rich? I find you, Lance, very, very compelling. So don't hang up. We're going to take your number for tomorrow. We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, our truckers, the men and women in Ukraine, the men and women in Israel, and God bless America and you folks. You are the best. And thanks for being here and as loyal as you are. And I'll see you tomorrow.